I stand with logic. There are far too many of these hashtags floating around, but if you can't beat them, join them. So I don't stand with any individual or with any group. I simply stand with logic. Either there's a good argument or there isn't, or I don't have enough facts to make a decision one way or the other. Specifically in court, we've seen a shift of how the public responds to allegations of individuals or groups. The public has made up their mind innocent or guilty, and it seems to me that there's far fewer people that say I don't know than there was before, and I view that as a problem. But what I view as an even deeper problem is a fourth type of person who I'm going to be talking about in this video. There is a suspect, there is a victim, there's the public, and then there's somebody that we'll get to in a moment. You might think that the suspect is guilty, innocent, or you might be unsure. But let's focus on that last person here for a moment before I get back to the public at large. Something happened to me like what happened to that victim, and that bothers me. That makes me upset. Although I have yet to hear a syllogism from people promoting this particular idea, this is what I would imagine it might look like. Do note, if you have a syllogism to present, I will address that syllogism. This is what I think it could look like. I'm not attempting to strawman here. Something like what happened to the victim happened to me. The suspect is guilty. People are defending the guilty person. This is wrong. I must support the victim. We break this down and look at each premise and we say, how do we know that premise 2 is true? You have all the evidence, or you just know that it's true? Looking at premise 3, maybe you're mistaken. Maybe people are not defending the suspect, but they're defending the system. Innocent until proven guilty. This basically has the same problem as premise 2. How do you know that they're a victim in the first place? Here's a different way of looking at it. Humans can lie, but a victim never lies. Some other premise, lobsters, I don't know. Stand with the victim and believe them. They can't possibly be lying. Well, humans can be wrong about events in the past, but victims have perfect memories. Premise 3, something to do with catapult pancakes. Believe the victim! Perhaps it looks something like this. Humans can do bad things. There is a victim. That means someone did something bad at some point. Therefore, someone did something bad to that victim. Maybe this is a problem of natural language. The word victim is the problem itself. So maybe saying alleged victim or suspected victim would get the mindset able to be more objective. And that seems like a good idea, right? According to some, using words like alleged victim is a bad thing to do because it might lead to bad consequences. One of these two articles uses some statistics and some reports to try to back their argument. That would be the second one that I have there to the right. Of course, all links will be in the description box below. So the main point is this. If you are this person, or if you've heard something and you think that maybe the person that said it might be experiencing this, and that's what's making their argument bad. The point of doing logic or science is to remove our human biases to the best that we can. No, we can't remove all of them, but we can remove some of them. And the emotional element is important to try to remove as best as we can. No, this isn't about supporting the culprit or blaming the victim or anything like that. If there are studies to be done that show that the way that we write or talk about these sort of topics, then let's do those studies, but we have to do that objectively, And so people that are themselves set into mental issues because of these events, because it reminds them of something, those people need to get help for that condition before being able to contribute positively to the conversation or to finding solutions for the problems themselves. You might just need to disconnect from listening to news, because their main thing that they get money from is telling about stuff that's terrible and getting people stressed. And then there's this like feedback loop that happens, and they don't care that it's causing people pain. They just care about the money. And maybe there's a way to change that. And maybe the way to change that is don't listen to the news anymore. Maybe we can have news that's positive instead and listen to that news. Yes, we still need to know what's going on in the world, but maybe there's a way to write about what's going on in the world that's not as harsh. Or maybe we need to make ourselves be able to handle the harshness. Maybe somewhere in between. But whatever that is a whole nother topic. And my concern is your mental well-being. And that should be your concern as well. So, yeah, whatever's going on in politics or whatever's going on in the world or whoever's getting accused of whatever, even if they've done it or they haven't done it or whatever the thing is, it's all potentially bad. But we don't have all the facts at hand. And even if we did, it's still not up to us to rein in judgment upon that individual. That's up to the system that we've created. And when we take the law into our own hands, we get the Salem witch trials, we get lynchings, we get all sorts of negative things that we don't want to do. And as far as your pain, it's absolutely real. No one's devaluing that. As far as your suffering, absolutely real. No one's devaluing that. The person that inflicted that on you, or the event that led to that, no one's devaluing that or dismissing that. Those are bad things. And I wish we could do something to resolve those things, make those things better, whatever. But maybe we can't. But you've clouded your objective ability because of these emotions. When you're in the middle of PTSD, I cannot be rational. I cannot be coherent. I can't do logic if I'm experiencing PTSD. And I know that objectively right now while I'm not experiencing PTSD. And so whatever it is that's going to cause me to experience that, well, I need to make that less of an issue for myself. And that might need medicine or help or therapy or a combination thereof. But whatever that is, that's my responsibility to take on to get fixed and be a better person. Not to shoulder that off to other people and make them shoulder that responsibility. Because that makes me codependent. So yes, I feel for you. But the system is innocent until proven guilty, and that's the best that we've come up with. And you don't want it the other way. Trust me, you don't. And maybe right now you can't think about that because you're focusing on your events, the things that hurt you. But this isn't about you. So, I'm sorry that you feel things. I'm sorry that we feel things. But that's the way life is. The best way to handle that is to get help for those feelings and learn how to cope with the fact that things are in the world that might remind you of those things. And until you're at that level, maybe disconnecting from stuff that reminds you of that stuff might be a good idea. Or taking it in small doses. Whatever it is that your psychologist, psychiatrist, and or therapist might suggest to you to do. If you have any objections to anything I've said here, because I am playing the game of logic, then you need to play that game as well. Show your syllogism that supports your argument, whatever your argument is. I suggested that these are potential arguments. I did not say that they are the argument. I don't know what the argument is. So, if you accuse me of straw man, I'll tell you you didn't listen all the way to the end. If you show me the syllogism, I will point out any and all logical fallacies. If there are none, I will agree with you. That's what's going to convince me. If you don't have a logical argument, then you better have empirical evidence or a repeatable test, because those things are in the vein of science, and I will agree with those things. And if you don't have those, then what do you have? I don't think you would have anything to offer at all. And so I'm going to be skeptical of your ideas and your conclusions unless and until you have one of those things. Because as I've always submitted in the past, if we don't have empirical evidence, repeatable test, or valid and sound argument, we must be skeptical of the conclusion.